has issued the early films in the James Bond series with trigger warnings. And it's not for 007's Golden Gun, but because they could cause offence today. And it's not just James Bond that's been shaken, if not a bit stirred, with woke controversy. The new Doctor Who was introduced to us at Christmas, shaking his thing in a fetching muscle top and skirt, whilst Star Wars announced that their next film will be directed by a feminist who says she enjoys making men feel uncomfortable. It does really seem like South Park hit the nail on the head with this recent skit.
Put another gay diverse woman in it, make it more lame. No, what's going on with my stars? No technically. Is there a problem, people?
We were just discussing ideas of what to do with the new Prince Eric movie.
Put a chick in it, make her gay.
Maybe we should go a different route than we did with Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones, put a chick in it and make her lame and gay.
So, is this really the future of what we'll be watching in 2024? Joining me now to discuss this is the actor James Dreyfus. James, thank you so much for being with me.
Mr. Murray, we meet at last.
We meet at last.
Yeah.
Tell me, let's start with James Bond. Does it surprise you that James Bond now needs a trigger warning?
No, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest, to be honest with you. I mean, I've just read their statement about it, which is, whilst we have a responsibility to preserve films as close to their contemporaneous accuracy as possible, we also have a responsibility in how we present them to our audiences. Well, no, you don't.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know what it means. I mean, back in the day, we had U, A, X, all seemed pretty clear. And the Bond movies, I seem to remember, were, okay, they're not aimed at children like Doctor Who is, but the James Bond movies were teenage fare. I can't even begin to think why any of them have a trigger warning, least of all for John Barry's music.
You know, one of the things that amazed me about this, James, I always sort of think we seem to be run by cultural juveniles. I'm just trying to think back on the BFI released movies that I've seen in the past. I remember about 25 years ago, they released all of the great works of directors like Eisenstein, Pier Paolo Pasolini. I saw Pier Paolo Pasolini's Salò. I wouldn't recommend it to viewers any more than I would recommend some of the things that Eric Weinstein was recommending you look up in relation to Stephen Hawking earlier. But Salò is probably the most disgusting film I've ever seen, and it's based on the Marquis de Sade's 120 Days of Sodom. Now, if they're going to start putting trigger warnings on James Bond, I reckon the 120 Days of Sodom probably needs some other kind of extreme warning.
Well, you know something, Douglas, I get nervous when I now see films without a trigger warning, because I think, oh my God, you know, what's in this? I mean, I was watching a film this morning. I love watching horror films. I'll give you an example. And there was a warning at the start of this movie, which was given by the directors, actually saying, we're warning you that some shots in this film will contain something that'll upset you in the name of humanity. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll steel myself a little bit. And the first image I saw was a baby seal being clubbed to death in real life. And so I immediately turned it off, and I thought, oh my God, and it's disturbed me all day. That I can understand. Epilepsy warnings, I can understand. But when you're talking about things like James Bond or even cartoons, I mean, if you really want to go back, put a disclaimer in front of Bambi, Watership Down. Those are the most disturbing movies I've ever seen. I don't understand it, but it gives me a clue here when they say, we listen to customer feedback and also continue to work closely with blah, blah, blah. Now, that tells me that they're listening to all the people that complain. Not the people that are happy, because they'll never call them up and say,
Bond, James Bond, shaken, not stirred. Well, folks, it looks like James Bond is going to be shaken into wokeness. That's right, they're putting trigger warnings on James Bond movies, probably saying that it's culturally inappropriate, that some of the words have sexual meaning. that it's going to titillate young boys, young men, old boys, old men, maybe even women. But then who knows, because you can't define what a woman or women is. So maybe they won't put trigger warnings on that. Because if you don't know who you're talking to in your audience, how do you put a trigger warning in for them? And then did not South Park hit the nail on the freaking head? Well, folks, here's my prediction for what's going to happen with James Bond and a lot of these other superhero movies. You're seeing it so often right now, right? The CW, Superman, Batman, Batwoman, I mean, coming out, Supergirl. I mean, they're already starting to put in the LGBTQ interplay into it, the transgender person into it. Here's my prediction for James Bond movies in the future. I really think they're going to flirt. There's a right flirt with making James Bond gay. I don't doubt me on this. This is a prediction of mine. I think they're going to flirt with the aspect and actually try to make a James Bond picture with James Bond as being gay, or maybe bisexual. Maybe they'll go that route. Now, do I think that they're going to go and make James Bond a transgender? I don't think they're going to go that far, but I believe they'll probably have transgender characters and binary fluid characters in these movies. Now, I've always asked, and I think the question sometimes was also being asked, you can take a look at the piece, you see them on the internet. Why not do a James Bond movie, but instead of having James Bond playing a male role, why not have the role of James Bond, secret agent, be a female role? A woman playing, instead of James Bond, I guess they'll call her Jane Bond. I'm Bond. I'm Bond. Jane Bond. And I don't want to be shaken, but I'd like to be stirred. I don't know. I mean, that would, but then why not just have the genre of the James Bond movies, make it Jane Bond instead? There are lots of female actors out there, actresses, that I think would fill that bill. I mean, one thing you've got to, but I don't think it would be that good at the box office. Female superhero movies. I mean, let's just go back and take a look. The Marvel Universe with female superheroes, Scarlett Johansson. I mean, she kicks ass in her movies. And she's very, very good. She's smart, she's talented, she's sexy, she's beautiful, she's brainy, she's brawny. I mean, she is absolutely a top-rate actress. And I'm using the word actress because she's a female. I know a lot of people would say, oh, she's an actor. No, she's an actress. If she was a male, she'd be an actor. Just saying. Anyways, but that genre with female superheroes has not really been a great moneymaker for Hollywood. They've lost billions of dollars on those movies. If you inculcate all the other ones that are out there, that's why these shows have flopped on television in terms of series. Batwoman, I think they made her a lesbian. These are the things that are happening out there, and I just don't think they're going to work right now. And if you want to break the James Bond genre, I mean, literally just crush it, you start going woke with James Bond, you're going to start to go broke. I mean, that's all there basically is to it. It's just absolutely incredible. And the British Film Institute, the BFI, where are their balls, their cojones? They said that they have an obligation, a duty to listen to their audience. How much is their audience other than maybe, the family members of the members of the board of the BFI and themselves? Audience? They're listening to the few voices out there that give a crap about this stuff. But that minority voice really makes a lot of freaking noise. And that's who they're listening to, because they have no cojones at all. So they're putting trigger warnings on Bond films. Just like when they decide to say, oh, we have to replace all the names because they have American Indian or they have Native Indian names. And the Native Indians, we don't want to culturally appropriate anything for them. So instead of a trigger warning, we're just going to remove the names. Like now they call it the Washington football team. I almost gag when I say that because as far as I'm concerned, they're the Washington Redskins, the Cleveland Indians, the Atlanta Braves. I will never succumb to name changes. And I will never say those names properly because they're not proper. They're improper. I will utilize the old names that they use because that's the name that they should be known by. James Bond should always be that handsome, devil-may-care attitude, a man's man. That's right, folks. That's what he should always be. And with that, that's the end of the show, folks. Thanks for taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, like, share, and follow this our video. If we've earned your subscription, we'd like you to go ahead and smack that subscription bell. You know what else to do. Take a look at our other video links here and below. I'll leave with my final thought, which is, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.